looked set up. It looked like you set this girl up to steal her man, and then now you got a storyline to be on this show. And whether or not
100%.
that is the case,
That's
nobody
how it
knows
looks.
that. But the more you come out swinging, the more people are going to create that narrative.
100%. We're back with Black and Curious. I'm Kendrin.
What up? What up? It is Dehjai. How y'all doing?
Hello. Hello and welcome. If you've never been here before, we do a cross-section of pop culture in real life. We're held multiple times a week on Mondays and Thursdays. So come on and join the party. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel and like this video in advance. Today, we are getting into another reality TV hodgepodge episode. Just a heads up, we usually drop the timestamps down below, so get in where you fit in. Let's get started. Love and Marriage Huntsville. It's back. And it is, wow. Already, we're only a couple episodes in, and it is already just like, oh God, this is a mess.
How many episodes have aired already?
Just two so far.
Oh, okay. So I'm like, well, dang. Yeah, clearly I still have not caught up yet. I need to get the plugin on my Amazon. We're gonna work it out, I promise.
It's just a lot going on, honestly. So I think Sunni, I know like I don't know if she's full-time or if she's a friend of this season, but it seems like they're positioning her to kind of be a full-time cast member. Sunni is Destiny's ex-producer and is now married to Destiny's ex-boyfriend Moses. And I think it sets a bad precedent. I've watched other shows where there's been issues as far as the fraternizing with the cast, and those people have been dismissed. And I think it's a bad precedent to have a situation where that person can come in and be a part of the cast. It's like how you're gonna have all types of bad actors coming in as producers and under the guise of getting on to a show.
I agree. And she's also not very likable.
She's very much not likable at all.
I haven't, like I've already said, I've not watched the first two episodes, so I have to catch up. Ugh. But did you catch the live recording, the podcast for Carlos?
I didn't watch okay, we've talked about this in the past. I think Carlos is too intertwined in this franchise. And just to go back to that point for a quick second, half the first episode revolved around his taping for people who, whether they were going or not, who was invited, who didn't get a personal invite, and that whole vibe. And then another 20 minutes was devoted to the actual podcast. I don't know if it's 20 minutes, but of the actual recording of Melody and him kikiing backstage, and then of Moses and Sunni coming onto the stage. And Sunni was just very like
unpleasant.
I did it. I don't care. I do it again. And it was like, so what? Yeah, I was building some sort of friendship or some sort of something with Destiny. But then I looked at it. This is her kind of like her words, paraphrasing her words. I looked at it and decided this person could be my husband. So I had to have loyalty to myself. And I want to be married. And this is about generational wealth and building together. So at that point, I took precedent over Destiny, and it was all said and done. And I was just like,
well, she also said that Destiny was never her friend. She never said anything about building no relationships. She said that was business, it was work.
Well, from the take that she gave, see, I don't know how much was one for one, or if they edited some stuff out for the show, or if I'm getting confused, because she did meet with Tisha and Kimmy on the side as well. So
Okay, so yeah, that's different. Whatever she said to them is not what she said on that live
but no, I'm
recording with
saying in
Carlos.
terms of with Carlos, I'm not sure how much of that conversation was edited to leave some stuff for Love and Marriage Huntsville is what I'm saying. Like I don't know if there was editing involved because I didn't watch the whole thing of his conversation with her. And
Okay.
so yeah, that was basically her stance. It was giving very much pick me. It was giving very much internet speak.
Bro.
And it just was not, she's not likable at all. And so I hope they're not gunning for her to be full time because she's not likable in the slightest.
I think they brought her on because the show itself is kind of boring. Like
Yeah,
the last few seasons have not really given what the girls needed to be giving.
they haven't. And Kimmy is, I don't even think Kimmy was in the first episode. I think she didn't show up until the end of the second episode. And it was kind of like, so
Unfortunately, she's also become a little bit forgettable in the last few seasons too, outside of her crazy, well not crazy, but her serious storyline with the dealing with the breast cancer and all.
yeah. So yeah, I think they're gonna have to shift this show. And I think we said that last season, but they're really gonna have to shift it, and some people gonna have to get off.
Yeah.
Because
Especially if they want to keep an audience. So catch us up. What's the tea with Martell and getting arrested? Like, how did that play out on camera?
so Martell did what Martell is want to do. So we have an update on that. Apparently, he was actually convicted of the issues that were in the lawsuit. And he was sentenced to a 30-day suspended sentence, a fine over $500. It didn't say how much, it just said it was over 500. And he has to do a psychiatric evaluation, which I think he needs.
Let's hope he passed, because baby.
Well, I don't think it's not really a pass fail situation, but they need to find out if something's going on in there.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not a pass fail. However, something is going on up in there, and it's like, if it is not to his liking, I do not imagine he's going to be willing to do anything about it. No. Not unless they force him to.
No. So like I said, Martell's gonna Martell every single day of the week. And essentially the way he tried to frame this story was like, my ex called the cops on me over a text message. It was over a text message. So then he
not just one.
Wait, so then he shows like a screenshot of just his part of the text message, and it's basically like, I was trying to tell her to leave me alone, but then you can see it's clearly moving into threat territory where it's just like, oh, I don't exactly remember what it said, but it was like, oh, I can, do something to you that you won't like. And then he says, kind of as an aside, oh yeah, I did include a picture with that. And I think it was the picture that's at issue here. And what Melody is saying, it's the picture. That's what is at issue. The picture is of them and evidence of him having an intimate tape with them. So it was a threat of like, shut up, leave me alone, or I'm going to release this. And he is trying to spin it as like, oh, it was over a text. And it was not. It was not over a text. So, of course, he got Miss Marlene, who is going to take his side right and wrong.
I mean, as mother should, it is what it is. She probably going to tell him he wrong behind closed doors. But
correct. So Miss Marlene is like, no. And, of course, Miss Nell, who is from a certain,
demographic,
is like, with it being Black men, you can't be calling the cops on your kid's father, and like, that's not okay, and blah blah blah. And it's just like, no, like, she had to document what was happening in her life. She needed to document it to ensure that it doesn't actually happen. That's like, she had to take the precautions that she had to take. And I'm no Mel fan, but like, I feel Martell really does force her hand in a lot of situations and then tries to act like he is the victim. And I don't like that at all. I can't stand that.
Yeah. And she said on the live recording, the podcast with Carlos, that her and her brother were talking about the whole situation. And her brother said to her, well, I feel like if he had to just apologize to you and basically like tried to make it right, you would have just dropped the whole thing and would not have gone forward with pressing the charges and doing whatever have you. And so she was like, "You're absolutely right. I probably would have, but because he didn't know when to stop, like this is where we ended."
Yeah. And so then he talks to Maurice and Marsau. They go by his job site or whatever, and they talk to him, and they're like, "Man, what are you doing? Like, you cannot do that kind of stuff. You're going to look, it's
Not
going
in
to
this
look
day and
bad.
age.
You're going to look
Right.
bad. Either way, you're going to end up looking bad." And he is just like, basically, like, she goes low, I'm going to hell. And they're just like, you just don't listen and you don't learn. And yeah, exactly that. Exactly
Oh
that.
well. At this point, oh well. Like you brought this on yourself.
Yeah. So while we're here, what was Marceau starting drama online on the last?
So the long and the short, basically he hopped on live. I want to say he must have done it after the first or second episode, if depending on whether or not they were aired together. I'm not sure the time frame, but he hopped on live and he was talking about Martell and his foolishness, and he was going on about how he hates the Melometers. And all this is coming from one of my favorite TikTokers. Her name is Melly Chan. It's Melly Chan on TikTok. And so she lives down in Huntsville. So she reports all the tea on the Huntsville girls.
Mhm.
So she was just like, it just he could have just left it. He could have literally just left well enough alone. Like he didn't
Yeah.
have to get up there and say any of that, because at the end of the day, this is how Marsau always gets himself in hot water with his friend group, because he always has something to say. He's a chatty patty as we know him.
Yeah.
So she was just kind of like him also being irritated with the like the blogosphere or the commentators on social media, basically having something to say about every little thing that happens on the show. And I
Yeah.
think he was putting a lot of the blame for this blackout onto the Melometers because they're wanting to boycott the show. I don't know. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I hadn't heard about it before now, but that's silly because you want to boycott your favorites show and that's going to cost her money. Like, how does that
Yeah,
work? I don't understand the point of that. How does that work?
it doesn't make any sense. But either way, so he's like, he's basically, the Scott brothers tend to throw a lot of salt towards all the commentators, be it social media, YouTube, whatever the case may be. Like they don't really care for us, just to
Yeah.
be clear.
Fine.
The other thing that I forgot to mention, I'm looking at the outline, is specific to Martell. Marsau had a lot to say about like how another woman could take you from your husband. I mean, take the husband from
The
Lord. Take the
wife.
husband from the wife. Yes, my
Yeah.
brain is fried, y'all. And so he just was basically making jokes around that, which I'm like, of course, this is gonna come back to bite him in the ass, either in the second half of this season when they, go on break and come back from hiatus, or it's gonna play out in social media because that's what they tend to do.
Yeah. Also, we saw this whole dynamic with Moses and Destiny. Even though Destiny and Moses weren't married, it was giving Sunny's explanation was kind of giving that vibe, like I can't take him if he was never yours type of vibe. And it was just like, girl, please.
Yeah, very messy. I just, so like, to digress back to Sunny for a second, I just did not appreciate, like, okay, come in and tell your story, but you don't have to be on 10 with the defense. You put yourself in this position. So now you got to deal with what's coming at you. It is what it is. Nobody
Yeah.
knows you, and they know that this man was with your basically your client, the whoever you, what are they called them, producees or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, it looks set up. It looked like you set this girl up to steal her man, and then now you got a storyline to be on this show. And whether or not
100%.
that is the case,
That's
nobody
how it
knows
looks.
that. But the more you come out swinging, the more people are going to create that narrative.
100%. 100%. And also when they were talking to Carlos, the timeline didn't seem to add up that well.
It did not.
It
It
was
did
very
not.
much like, oh, me and Destiny, or Moses was kind of saying like, me and Destiny never actually broke up. We just kind of stopped talking. And it was just kind of
And it was
like,
a whole lot of Sunni talking over Moses or talking for him.
mhm.
Like it just didn't make it at one point. Outside of that, at one point Melody was like, okay, so like what's the good juice? What's the backstory as to how you
Yeah,
all got together? There's so much animosity and aggression here, but like if you're gonna be up here and having a conversation with us, what we want to hear about is your love story, not about this chaos and confusion.
yeah. One other quick thing that happened, Melody had to sit down with Keke. Keke apparently was starting mess and leaking information. She says it was her mom that leaked information to some bloggers, but everybody knows it was probably her. So, or everybody suspects it was probably her. So
Mm-hmm.
she's leaking information to the blogs. And Melody is like, you can't do that before the season starts. You're messing with our check. Like, that's our money. We need people to tune in to see the stuff. So, like, why are you leaking stuff? So basically, she just sat her down and was like, I don't have capacity for friends like you. And so I wish you well.
Like, was that on camera or
It
that's
was.
just? Oh wow.
And
Yeah, I
so
can't wait to catch up.
here's my thing. I feel like we've seen Melody give this treatment to other people, but I also appreciated that she sat down and did it with Keke and on camera, because I feel like she's probably had these sort of feelings towards some of her other friends, but we catch the end of it, or like we
Mm-hmm.
come in and she's just no longer friends with those people. And I'm glad we got like an explanation this time of like, okay, no, ma'am, you messing with my money. I don't appreciate that. I don't have time for this. You're not one of my real friends. You're not in the inner circle. I wish you will. We can coexist and let's move on.
I mean, but I bet you that the producing staff was like, listen, you cannot have another season where you just not talking to somebody.
Yeah.
And
Or
these people are a part of the cast. You cannot do this
no,
again.
no. Or that you just, yeah, like you just show up and you not talking to people again. You know what I mean? Like you can't do that. And she's already on the outside of this cast. And it's like, girl, I
Take them
honestly feel
producer
like
credits and go.
if she wasn't a producer on this show, she would probably have gotten fired last season because she didn't give anything.
Girl, no storyline. She don't tell us nothing.
No storyline. So, all right. Let's stick with Own really quick. Let's do the Never Ever Mets. I know you're not watching this. Girl,
I've heard about it though. A lot of people have been talking about it in the podcast world.
yeah. So just real quick, we talked a couple weeks ago about how reality dating shows are not safe for Black women. There was an actual physical assault on this show. A physical, like the guy, they were both drunk, arguing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This is a couple, right? They came here to meet each other. Arguing back and forth. It looks like it's playful at first, but then it starts getting a little sharper. And he like, I can't remember who swatted who first, but it was kind of like, okay, move out, go ahead, move out of the way. And then she keeps talking and comes up on him, and he's like basically like raises up on her like he was getting ready to swing on her like she was a dude.
Oh.
And like pushed
On
her away. And it
television.
was just like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I wanted to point this out because this is not the first time I've seen domestic violence on OWN. It was also on Family or Fiancé. Um,
Mm-hmm. That show is so ghetto.
it, mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm.
Baby. And so if you've ever watched Family and Fiance, I really don't believe that these people be having committed relationships. They're just trying to get on television. It's giving 15 minutes of fame.
Maybe, but this couple looked like they were actually going through some stuff because they basically went in the bathroom. I feel like he tried to unmic her or make sure she didn't have any mics. And then it was very clearly a domestic violence incident happening in that bathroom. And to the point that they ended production early and was like, absolutely not.
Oh, no.
Everybody go home.
Oh, wow.
Like,
girl, why would you know what? Questions
so
that don't necessarily deserve answers.
And so that was where you were getting ready to go, was like kind of what the expert said on the Never Ever Mets. It was like, okay, first of all, both of y'all were putting your hands on each other and we have a no tolerance policy. So they put him out that night and they put her out the next day. But it was like, we have a zero tolerance policy for people like fighting in the house and doing that. But also, if he did this on the first day of meeting you,
like, what type of time?